The sky above Varus 4 was always amber. The dust in the air made every sunset look like fire. Sergeant Park Do-hyun had watched that sky for 3 years now. He knew every shade of orange, every pattern of clouds. But today, something was different. Today, there were shadows moving between the stars. "Sergeant, we have incoming signals," Private Kim Yuna said. Her voice was calm, but her hand shook slightly as she worked the radio equipment. She was only 22 years old. This was her first real posting. Do-hyun walked over to her station. Around them, the small military base was quiet. Most soldiers were eating dinner or playing cards. Nobody expected trouble. Varus 4 was a mining colony, nothing more. 40,000 civilians digging ore from the ground. 200 soldiers keeping watch over nothing. What kind of signals? Do-hyun asked. Yuna looked up at him. Her face had gone pale. "Ships, Sergeant. Many ships. The computer says. It says over 100 vessels." Do-hyun felt his stomach drop. 100 ships was not a trading convoy. 100 ships was not a rescue mission. 100 ships was an invasion fleet within the hour. The entire colony knew. The Keth Dominion had arrived. Do-hyun had heard stories about the Keth. Every soldier had. They were an empire that stretched across 3 sectors of space. They had conquered 17 different species. Not defeated, conquered. They took worlds, took populations, took everything. And they had never lost. Their ground forces called themselves the Unbroken Legion. The name was not pride. It was simple fact. In 400 years of war, they had never been broken. Lieutenant Choi Murray gathered all the officers in the command room. She was 31 years old, the highest-ranking officer on the planet. She had trained for colony defense. She had never trained for this. "They are demanding our surrender," she said. Her voice was steady, but Do-hyun could see the fear in her eyes. "High Blade Vorn, their commander, has given us 1 rotation to comply. If we refuse, they will take the colony by force." "How many soldiers do they have?" someone asked. Myray paused. 4,000 ground troops. "Maybe more." The room went silent. 4,000 against 200. 20 to 1. Those were not odds. Those were a death sentence. What about reinforcements? Corporal Lee Taiho asked. He was the company medic, a quiet man with gentle hands. "Earth Command must know we are here." "I have sent a distress signal," Yuna said from the corner. "But the nearest fleet is 3 weeks away." "Maybe more." 3 weeks. They would all be dead in 3 days. Myray looked around the room. "I will not order anyone to fight," she said. "If you wish to surrender, I understand. The Keth take slaves, but they do not kill those who submit. Your families would live." Nobody spoke. Do-hyun looked at his fellow soldiers. He saw fear on every face. But he saw something else too. He saw anger. He saw pride. These were not elite warriors. They were regular troops, cooks, mechanics, communication specialists. They had joined the military for steady pay and a chance to see the stars. They had not joined to become heroes, but sometimes heroes are not born. Sometimes they are simply the ones who refuse to run. Do-hyun stepped forward. "I will not surrender," he said. "My family is back on Earth. If the Keth take this colony today, they will take Earth tomorrow. I would rather die standing than live on my knees." One by one, others stepped forward. Lee Taiho, Kim Yuna, Specialist Han Jiwoo, the demolitions expert who everyone called the architect. Young soldiers and old soldiers. Men and women who had never fired a shot in combat. In the end, not a single person chose surrender. Myray smiled. It was a sad smile, but also proud. "Then we fight," she said. "May our ancestors watch over us." That night, Do-hyun stood on the colony wall and watched the Keth dropships descend. They came down like falling stars, hundreds of them, burning through the amber sky. Each one carried soldiers who had never known defeat. Each one carried warriors who thought humans were weak. Beside him, Yuna was checking her rifle. Her hands were not shaking anymore. "Are you scared?" Do-hyun asked. She looked at him. "Yes," she admitted. "But my grandmother used to tell me something. She said that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is being afraid and standing anyway." Dawn nodded. "Your grandmother was wise. She survived the soul collapse when she was 16. She walked 200 kilometers with a broken leg to find medicine for her sister." Yuna smiled slightly. "I come from stubborn people, Sergeant." Do-hyun laughed. For the first time that day, he felt something other than fear. He felt pride. "We all do," he said. "Every human does." The first Keth soldiers touched ground at midnight. Eyeblade Vorn expected the humans to hide. He expected them to cry. He expected them to beg Dot instead. The night exploded with gunfire. The Battle of Varus IV had begun, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. The Keth had conquered 17 species. They knew exactly how long each one lasted before breaking. The plant-like Voreshi surrendered in 6 hours. The insectoid Creel lasted 12. The proud warrior race of the Dennery held for almost a full day before their spirits crumbled. Humans, they calculated, would break in 4 hours. That was their first mistake. Sergeant Park. Do-hyun crouched behind a wall of sandbags as plasma fire screamed overhead. His ears were ringing. His left arm was burned from a near miss. He had not slept in 20 hours. Around him, his squad kept firing. "Magazine." Private Kim Yuna shouted. Her voice was hoarse from smoke. Corporal Lee Taiho threw her a fresh one. His hands were covered in blood. Not his own. He had already treated 6 wounded soldiers that morning. The Keth were attacking Sector 7. It was just a maintenance yard before the invasion. Now it was the most important piece of ground on the planet. If the Keth took it, they would have a clear path to the civilian shelters. Do-hyun would not let that happen. "They are coming again," someone yelled. Do-hyun looked up. Through the smoke, he could see them. Keth soldiers in their black armor, moving in perfect formation. They were tall, taller than humans. Their skin was gray, their eyes were red, and they moved with the confidence of beings who had never known defeat. "Hold the line," Do-hyun ordered. "Nobody falls back." His soldiers opened fire. The old kinetic rifles barked and thundered. The Keth fell, but more kept coming. Always more. The first wave hit the barricade. Do-hyun shot one Keth in the chest. Then another. A third one grabbed his rifle, and Do-hyun drew his knife. He had not trained in knife fighting. He had learned it from his grandfather, an old man who remembered when humans still fought each other. The Keth was stronger. The Keth was faster. But the Keth had never seen anything like the look in Do-hyun's eyes. Human beings had spent 1,000,000 years fighting to survive. Against nature. Against animals. Against each other. That history was written in their blood, carved into their bones. When a human had nothing left, they did not surrender. They became something older, something primal, something dangerous. Do-hyun killed the Keth with his grandfather's knife. Then he picked up his rifle and kept fighting. The Sector 7 defense lasted 18 hours. When the Keth finally pulled back, they had lost 800 soldiers. The humans had lost 12. Across the colony, similar stories played out. Lieutenant Choi Murray had turned the mining tunnels into a maze of death. She collapsed passages on Keth soldiers. She set traps in the darkness. She sent small teams to strike and vanish before the enemy could respond. The Keth called it cowardly. Myray called it smart. Specialist Han Ji-woo, the architect, had become legendary in just one day. He built bombs from mining equipment. He turned simple doors into deadly surprises. When a Keth battalion tried to enter the main mining shaft, Ji-woo was waiting. Only 3 soldiers came out. They were not KETH. By the end of the first day, the Keth had lost 3,000 soldiers. They had expected to lose none. Highblade Varn stood in his command ship and stared at the reports. He could not believe what he was reading. 3,000 dead. Against primitives. Against a species that had only discovered space travel 2 centuries ago. "This is impossible," he said. His advisor, a thin Keth named Helos, shifted nervously. "The humans are different, Highblade. They do not fight like other species." "How so?" "They do not break," Helos said quietly. "We killed their officers. New ones took command. We destroyed their supplies. They scavenged from our dead. We pushed them back. They counterattacked." He paused. "Highblade, in one engagement, they ran out of ammunition. Instead of surrendering, they attacked us with blades and bare hands." Varn was silent for a long moment. "That is not possible. No sane species would do that." "Perhaps," Helos said carefully, "humans are not entirely sane." That night, Private Kim Yuna sat alone in a ruined building. Her uniform was torn. Her face was dirty. In her pocket was a small device, a modified transmitter that she had built herself. The Keth had jammed all communications. Their technology was superior. Their equipment was advanced. Nobody should have been able to break through, but Yuna had studied their jamming patterns for 6 hours. She had found a gap, a tiny window of frequency that opened for exactly 3 seconds every 4 minutes. It was enough. She pressed the button. Her voice, small and tired, flew across the stars. "This is Private Kim Yuna of Varus 4 Colony. We are under attack. We are still fighting. Please send help. Repeat. We are still fighting." Far away, in a place humans called Earth, a young officer sat up straight in his chair. He had been monitoring dead channels for his entire shift. Nothing ever came through. Nothing important ever happened. Until now. He listened to the message 3 times. Then he picked up his phone and called Special Operations Division. "Sir," he said, his voice shaking, "you need to hear this. Help was coming. The humans of Varus 4 just had to survive long enough to meet it." Day 4. 87 soldiers remained. Park Do-hyun had stopped counting the enemy dead. The number was too large. It did not feel real anymore. Nothing felt real anymore. He moved through each hour like a ghost, fighting, resting, fighting again. The Keth had changed their tactics. They no longer attacked in large waves. Now they came in small groups, probing the defenses, testing for weakness. They had learned that humans were dangerous, but they had not learned the most important lesson. They had not learned that humans became more dangerous when they were desperate. Do-hyun gathered his remaining soldiers in the ruins of the colony market. Once, families had shopped here. Children had eaten ice cream. Old couples had walked slowly between the stalls. Now it was a command post, surrounded by sandbags and the bodies of their enemies. "We cannot hold fixed positions anymore," he said. His voice was rough from days of shouting orders. "There are too few of us, so we will not hold. We will hunt." The soldiers looked at each other. They were exhausted. Their eyes were hollow, but they listened. "From now on, we move at night. We strike their camps when they sleep. We destroy their supplies when they are not looking. We make them fear the darkness." Do-hyun paused. "The Keth can see in the dark. We cannot. But our ancestors hunted at night for 1,000,000 years. This is not a weakness. This is our birthright." That night, The hunters went out. Corporal Lee Tai-ho stayed behind in the medical station. It was just a basement now, lit by emergency lights, filled with wounded soldiers lying on makeshift beds. Tai-ho had not slept in 3 days. His hands shook when he was not working. But whenever a patient needed him, the shaking stopped. "You should rest," said a young soldier with a bandaged leg. Tai-ho shook his head. "I will rest when this is over." "When will it be over?" Tai-ho did not answer. He did not know that an hour later, the ceiling shook. Dust fell. The lights flickered. Somewhere above, the Keth were bombing the colony. "Doctor!" Someone screamed. Tai-ho ran toward the voice. A section of the ceiling had collapsed. 3 soldiers were buried under the rubble. 2 were dead. The third was still breathing, barely. The building shook again. Plasma fire was melting the walls above them. More debris fell. The basement was collapsing. Any reasonable person would have run. Any sane person would have saved themselves. Tai-ho stayed. He pulled the soldier from the rubble. He stopped the bleeding. He set the broken bones. He did all of this while fire rained from above and the walls crumbled around him. When he finally carried the soldier out, the basement was gone. The entire building was gone. Only smoke and fire remained. The soldier survived. Her name was Jang Selmi. She was 19 years old. She would go on to become a doctor herself, inspired by the man who refused to leave her behind. But that was the future. In the present, the war continued. Private Kim Yuna was no longer just a communication specialist. She carried a rifle now. She had killed enemies. She had watched friends die. The young woman who had arrived on Varus 4 6 months ago was gone. Someone harder had taken her place. That night, she went hunting with Doyun's team. They found a Keth supply camp 3 kilometers from the colony. 20 enemy soldiers guarded it. The humans numbered 8. "We should go around," one soldier whispered. "There are too many." Yuna studied the camp. She saw the supply crates. She saw the ammunition. She saw the food that the Keth ate while human children hid in bunkers and starved. "No," she said quietly. "We take them." They attacked at midnight. The Keth were sleeping. They had guards posted, but their guards were looking outward, watching for attacks from the colony. They did not expect humans to come from behind. The fight was brief and brutal. 8 humans against 20 Keth. When it was over, only 8 were standing. All of them were human. Yuna sat among the bodies and loaded captured ammunition into her pack. Her hands were steady. Her heart was cold. "Are you all right?" Do-hyun asked. She looked up at him. "I used to cry when I saw dead animals on the road," she said. "I used to feel sorry for insects I stepped on by accident." She looked down at the Keth body beside her. "I do not feel anything now." Do-hyun understood. War changed people. It had to. The soft parts of the soul could not survive battle. They had to be buried, hidden away, protected until peace returned, if peace ever returned. On the Keth command ship, High Blade Vorn received his daily report. 8,000 soldiers dead. 3 supply camps destroyed. Morale among his troops was collapsing. For the first time in his life, Vorn felt something he did not recognize. It took him several moments to understand what it was. Fear. He finally sent a request for reinforcements. He expected a fleet. He expected thousands of fresh soldiers. He expected victory. Instead, he received a simple message from Dominion High Command. A human vessel has entered the system. 1 ship, 12 life signs. Vorn laughed. 12 soldiers? The humans were mocking him. 12 soldiers could not change anything, but deep in space, moving silently through the darkness, 12 shadows prepared for war. They were called Fireteam Spectre. They were the best humanity had ever created, and they were very, very angry. The ship had no name. It was not supposed to exist. In official records, it was listed as destroyed 5 years ago during a training accident. In reality, it was the most advanced stealth vessel ever built by human hands. Captain Beak Sunho sat in the pilot's seat and watched Varus 4 grow larger through the window. Behind him, 11 operators checked their weapons in silence. They did not need to speak. They had worked together for years. Each one knew what the others were thinking. 30 minutes to landing, Sunho said. Master Sergeant Oh Haeun looked up from her rifle. She was 35 years old, with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too much death. The Keth still do not know we are here. Their sensors cannot see us. Their technology is good. Ours is better. Haeun nodded. She went back to checking her equipment. Sergeant First Class Yoon Ki-yoon finished loading explosives into his pack. He was a large man, built like a machine, with hands that could break bones or build bombs with equal skill. How many enemy soldiers on the ground? Intelligence says 12,000 remaining. Sunho paused. We will even those odds. Nobody laughed. Nobody smiled. They all knew he was not joking. The ship landed in darkness, 3 kilometers from the colony. The Keth did not detect it. The 12 operators vanished into the night like ghosts. They found the colony defenders an hour later. Park Do-yoon was leading a patrol when shadows appeared from nowhere and surrounded his team. His soldiers raised their weapons. Peace, a voice said. We are human. Captain Sunho stepped into the faint moonlight. He was tall and lean, with a face carved from stone and eyes that burned with cold fire. Fire Team Spectre, Special Operations Division. We received your distress signal. Do-hin stared at him. 12 soldiers. They sent 12 soldiers. 12 is enough. Do-han wanted to argue. He wanted to say that 12 soldiers could not fight 12,000. But something in Sunho's eyes stopped him. This was not a man who made empty promises. This was a man who delivered. What do you need from us? Do-hyun asked. Information. Maps. Enemy positions. Sunho's voice was calm, almost bored. And stay out of our way. Things are going to get loud. They made their way back to the colony. Lieutenant Choi Mai-rae met them at the command post. She looked at the 12 operators with disbelief. I asked for an army, she said. You got something better, Haeun replied. You got us. Mai-rae started to respond, but Sunho raised his hand. Lieutenant, your soldiers have done the impossible. You held against 20 to 1 odds for 5 days. You killed 8,000 enemies with 200 troops. He paused. That is not defense. That is legend. Now let us finish what you started. That night, Fire Team Spectre launched Operation Nightmare. 4 operators went to the Keth command ship in orbit. The ship was heavily guarded. Sensors covered every approach. Hundreds of soldiers patrolled its hulls. It did not matter. The 4 humans moved through the ship like smoke. Guards died without making a sound. Doors opened that should have been locked. Security systems failed that should have been perfect. Eyeblade Varn was in his quarters when his door slid open. He reached for his weapon. He never touched it. Haeun stood over his body. Her knife was clean. Her breathing was steady. She looked at the Keth commander who had terrorized 17 species, who had never known defeat, who had believed himself untouchable. You should not have come here, she said quietly. Then she activated her communication device. Every screen on the ship, every display on the planet, every Keth soldier everywhere, all of them saw the same image. Their commander, dead, killed by a single human who had walked through their defenses, like they did not exist. Then the command ship exploded. On the ground, the Keth watched their flagship burn. They saw its pieces fall through the amber sky like dying stars. They heard the voice that came through their radios. This is Fire Team Spectre. Your commander is dead. Your ship is destroyed. Your army is next. Hyun's voice was cold and empty. We are the ghosts of humanity. We are what your species should have feared. And we are not done hunting. Panic spread through the Keth ranks. Officers tried to restore order. They failed. How do you restore order when your soldiers believe they are fighting demons? Kyun moved through the enemy camps like a force of nature. He planted explosives everywhere. Artillery positions. Ammunition dumps. Command posts. One by one, they erupted in fire. The Keth ran. They actually ran. Soldiers from the Unbroken Legion, warriors who had never known defeat, threw down their weapons and fled into the night. But the night belonged to Spectre. Private Kim Yuno watched from the colony wall. She saw the explosions. She heard the screams. She watched an army of 12,000 break apart like glass. What are they? She whispered. Beside her, Do-hyun shook his head slowly. They are what we become, he said. When you push humanity too far, this is what waits. Not soldiers, not warriors. He paused. Monsters. Our monsters. Fighting for us. The sun rose over Varus 4. The battle was over. The Keth were broken, but the galaxy was just beginning to learn what humanity truly was. 1 week after the battle, the relief fleet arrived. 30 warships filled the sky above Varus 4. Thousands of fresh soldiers landed to secure the colony. Medical teams set up hospitals. Engineers began rebuilding what had been destroyed, but they found something unexpected. They found a colony that had already won. Park Do-hyun stood at the landing zone and watched the ships come down. He was exhausted. He had not truly slept in 11 days. His uniform was torn and burned. His body was covered in scars that would never fully heal, but he was alive. 43 of his soldiers were alive, and 40,000 civilians were safe because of them. A general stepped off the first transport. Her name was Beek Hana. She had commanded armies across 3 systems. She had won battles that would be studied for centuries. But when she saw Do-hyun and his remaining soldiers, she did something unexpected. She saluted them first. Sergeant Major Park Do-hyun, she said. On behalf of United Earth Command, I thank you. What you did here will never be forgotten. Do-hyun returned the salute. He wanted to say something noble, something worthy of the moment. But he was too tired. We just did not want to die, he said honestly. General Beek smiled. It was a sad smile, full of understanding. That is what makes humanity strong, she said. We never want to die, and we will do anything to live. The news spread across the galaxy. Varus 4 became a legend. The story of 200 regular soldiers holding against 12,000 enemies. The story of 12 operators destroying an army in a single night. Other species listened. They learned. They remembered. The Keth Dominion demanded answers. Their ambassador, a tall gray figure named Helos, presented himself before the United Earth Council on the neutral station of Gateway Prime. The chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species. All of them wanted to see what would happen next. You have committed atrocities, Helos declared. Your soldiers are not warriors. They are monsters. They killed our High Blade in his own quarters. They destroyed our ship without warning. They hunted our soldiers like animals. Ambassador No Yoonji rose to respond. She was 63 years old, with white hair and calm eyes. She had negotiated peace treaties that saved millions of lives. She had also watched her own brother die in the First Interstellar War. Your Dominion attacked a civilian colony without provocation, she said evenly. You outnumbered our defenders 20-1. You expected easy victory because you believed humans were weak. She paused. The entire chamber was silent. The soldiers who held Varus 4 were not our best. They were garrison troops, cooks, clerks, communication specialists. They were regular people who picked up weapons and refused to surrender. Yunji's voice grew colder. The 12 who destroyed your command structure? Those were our special forces. Our actual warriors. Hallows shifted uncomfortably. 12 soldiers. You destroyed our army with 12 soldiers. We have 50,000 more like them. Yunji leaned forward. And if you touch another human colony, if you threaten another human life, you will meet them all. Every single one. They will come for you in the night. They will find you wherever you hide. And when it is over, your species will be a warning to others. She let those words hang in the air. This is not a threat, Ambassador Hellos. This is a promise. Humanity does not start wars, but we finish them, always. Within one standard cycle, the Keth Dominion signed a non-aggression treaty. Within 10 cycles, they had applied for protected status under human defense networks. The Unbroken Legion was disbanded. Their name had become a joke. The other species watched. They learned. They remembered. Some species saw humanity as protectors. They sought alliances. They requested help defending their own worlds. Other species saw humanity as a threat. They kept their distance. They built stronger weapons and trained harder soldiers, hoping they would never have to use them. But all species understood one simple truth. Humans were not to be taken lightly. Humans fought with a desperation that no other species could match. And when humans were pushed too far, they became something terrifying. 3 months after the battle, Park Do-hyun returned to Varys 4. He had been promoted to warrant officer. He had been offered a position in Special Forces training. He had become famous across human space, but he did not come back for glory. He came back for the memorial. The wall stood in the center of the rebuilt colony. It was made of black stone, polished until it reflected the amber sky. On it were carved 157 names. The soldiers who did not survive, Do-hyun stood before it for a long time. He traced some of the names with his fingers. Friends, comrades, people who had trusted him to lead them. Private Kim Yuna appeared beside him. She had been promoted too. She was training to become an intelligence officer. But today, she was just a soldier visiting the dead. Was it worth it? She asked quietly. Do-hyun did not answer immediately. He looked at the names. He thought about their faces. He remembered their voices, their laughs, their dreams. Then he turned and looked at the colony behind them. Children played in the streets. Families walked together in the evening light. Old couples sat on benches and watched the sunset. 40,000 lives continued because 157 soldiers had given everything. Ask them, Do-hyun said finally. He gestured toward the living. Ask them if it was worth it. Yuna looked at the families. She saw a mother holding her daughter's hand. She saw a young man proposing to his girlfriend in the park. She saw life continuing because death had been held back. She did not need to ask. She already knew the answer. The sun set over Varys 4. The sky turned amber, then red, then dark. Stars appeared overhead. Among them, human ships moved freely, carrying trade and travelers and hope. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed it. And somewhere in the darkness, Fireteam Spectre waited. They were the ghosts of humanity. They were the nightmares that protected dreams. And they would always be ready, because humans never stopped fighting. Humans never gave up. And when regular soldiers could hold the line, special forces were unleashed. This was the lesson of Veris-4. This was the truth of humanity, and the galaxy would never forget it.